Well, first of all, we'd like to just do a quick introduction to our workshop presenters. Jason Caldwell is our COO and one of our co-founders here at RevRoad. And Seth Robinson is our financial analyst. A couple fun facts about these two guys. I'm Amy Caldwell, didn't mention that. And if you are quick, you'll catch the two last names are the same. So that's my squeeze. I'm super excited to get to work with him and sit next to him every single day and just have a fun time at work here. Jason's had a great history in military intelligence in the past and running projects for government contracts. Seth is one of our buds. He gets to sit over by us as well. And if you have not met Seth, you need to. He is a crack up. His mind is amazing. He knows everything about everything, and he tells it to you with the sweetest little giggle. So get to know these two guys. We're super excited to have them present to you today on strategy, traction, or bust. Following that, we'll turn the time over to Rebecca. Okay.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you, Amy. And as Amy mentioned, we are married, so everything she said about me is completely accurate and true. But everything she said about Seth is earned. I know she's obligated to say things nice about me, but with Seth, it's earned. So I want to welcome everybody out. Thank you for being here. We love having you guys here in our home as our guests. We hope you're comfortable here. We hope you meet new people while you're here. We'll have some time after this that you can do some networking, so we hope you turn to your neighbors and meet somebody new. That would be great. So we're going to talk about strategery. And I'm going to call it strategery because I'll mess up saying strategy as we go through this. So just work with me on the strategery part. And we're going to talk about how to get to traction. But the first thing that we're going to do is actually have a quick pitch competition. Okay, we have two companies we're going to present to you right now, and we want you to pretend that you have $300,000 that you're looking to invest, and we're looking to get that money. So we're going to pitch a company here first.
Okay, so the company that I'm pitching for you is it's Aqua Uber Airbnb. Okay. So basically, water is the most important resource. If anything lives, it needs water to some degree or another. Americans spend $11.5 billion on bottled water every year. That's an average of $1.22 per gallon, but as you can probably assume, smaller quantities are marked up more than larger quantities. So our app, what it does is it delivers to you or identifies to you the closest source of bottled water, basically, right? So it can be delivered in trucks or drones. It's all environmentally safe. And we anticipate that we will deliver it within the major metropolitan area within 10 minutes or within 45 minutes within the outer metropolitan areas and suburbs. Okay? We're going to be charging $1 per quart or $3 per gallon. That's an 80% markup. Or give you a subscription for $50 a month, which will give you a lot of water. Enough that you don't really have to count, but not unlimited, because that would be prohibitively expensive. Okay, and so within our service area, we have 300 million people. And if we can get 30% of those, that's $4 billion in monthly recurring revenue. Okay, I'm going to need 3 months and $300,000 to build my company. Thank you.
Okay, so that's company one. Company two, we haven't figured out a name yet. We're still working on that. We did identify a problem that 1 in 10 Americans do have. It's a pretty significant problem. So we went out and we talked to 200 consumers, potential customers. We did interviews with them. We got 158 of those 200 to sign up on the spot with a credit card number for a monthly subscription of $20 a month as soon as we can deliver the product. So we can charge that as soon as we have the product in their hands. I need 3 months and $300,000 to get that built. And that's the company. So now, by applause, which company would you want to invest that $300,000 in? Would it be Aqua Uber Airbnb?
Yeah!
Remember, $4 billion in monthly recurring revenue. Or would it be company two? Okay.
Wait, You don't even know what his company does.
But you're a smart audience.
He doesn't even have a name yet. Why do you want to invest in his company more than mine?
Yeah, so why would you invest in company number 2? Any thoughts?
You have results.
Results, right? There was a hand back there. Where was?
Stated the problem.
Stated the problem, okay. Anything else from over here? Who had, oh, back there. Got customers, right? We got customers. I got credit card numbers that I can start charging as soon as we get a product in their hand. So that is what we determine traction is. As an investor, that's what you look for in traction, right? You look for measurable ways to get to revenue. So we're going to talk about getting to traction. The way we're going to do this, we're going to talk about market validation first, then your problem and solution interviews. We're going to get into minimum viable product, which is a little bit different than what you've heard in the past with viable product. And then we're going to see how we can find traction.
So this is what happens when companies go to the market and say, I know what my market wants. I know what they need.
I know what they're begging for.
I don't need to do any market research. Okay? What are these big, stupid brown things that are in the way of all the sliding? Okay? So with market validation, what we're looking for is we're finding proof in the market that there's something that's there, that people need something. Entrepreneurs always jump to, I have this great product idea, let me build this product, throw it out there and see what happens and see what needs to happen. You actually don't need to do that, okay? You don't need to hire a team, you don't need to build a product, and especially do not waste money because validation is actually very, very inexpensive. It's a lot of work, but it's very inexpensive. And if you do it correctly, you can find that validation you can find that validation without incurring any costs.
So the way Seth is talking about keeping your costs low at this stage of your company, and I do want to stress, we're going to couch a lot of terms in the startup world, but these principles are applicable across all enterprise, okay? They're principles that they can use in order to get products out, to get new features out. They can do all this stuff. They can do it relatively on the cheap. When I worked at Boeing, they did this stuff all the time. Even an HR department can do it because their customers are employees, right? So they can do pilot programs and test things, and that's how this works. So when you're going out to do market validation, you first want to get your hypothesis. I think there's a problem. The problem is X. And then you go out and you find people that have that problem. You do need a lot of humility at this part because you may have misdiagnosed the problem. So you need to be willing to go out there, the people you talk to, you need to let them tell you what the problem is and maybe change your mind on what it is, okay? And that's how you go out there and you find your early adopters and then you turn them into customers like we talked about with that first company of collecting credit card numbers right off the bat. So that's your hypothesis testing and your market validation. You really need to find out if there's a problem worth solving out there.
Okay, so problem and solution interviews are what I find the most important skill that's lacking in entrepreneurs. This is not something a lot of people spend a lot of time on or like really practice, but I think this is one of the most important skills. So in problem and solution interviews, these are methods of validation. Okay? Problem interviews, you are specifically looking at the problem. You're going out and you're interviewing potential customers, potential early adopters, and you're doing it in such a way that you're trying to find the common ways people answer the same questions, patterns in people's experiences in regards to some product. You start really broad and you go down to what you believe the problem is. When you start broad, people might consistently lead you to something else, which is a bigger problem. And that's a better opportunity than what you originally anticipated being there, okay? And so those interviews, they're actually very difficult because they need to be very sanitized and done in a way that allows you to find what the customer needs but doesn't know they need, which is one of the most difficult things. And so that's the purpose of the problem interview, is to fully understand the problem in the market. The solution interview, the point is not the solution. The point of the solution interview is to learn about the customer. And what you do is from your problem interviews, you find unique value propositions. Okay, you have these reasons, these ways you can provide value for people or you believe are there that you can do. And you then produce features that would meet that value, right? That would provide that value. Then you just slap these features in front of your participant, and you see how they react. And from that, you see what stickiness does the product have? What things do they gravitate to? What things do they like or dislike? So you can kind of nail down what's important about approaching this problem, approaching this market, approaching these people. Okay? You're learning about the customers in the solution interview and the problem in the problem interview. All these things I teach at RevUp, which is a course that we offer. It's every Thursday between 4 and 5:30, or actually not doing it today specifically, but it will be next week.
Next week.
We're going to be doing this, and it goes through these 12 subjects, okay? It doesn't take 12 weeks. It takes a little bit more than 12 weeks. We go through each of these 12 subjects because this is kind of the process of, starting with nothing, getting validation, all the way to building a product, when you do things and where you do things, and making sure you do them in the right order.
And just as a plug for that, when you come here and work on RevUp, it's actually working on the business you're in, and we'll help you with that, and we'll go through all these things and actually do a workshop and work on the problems you're working on.
We actually sit down and help you with your problem interview scripts, your solution interview scripts, your RICE metrics, your different things in every step, basically.
Okay, so now we've done our market validation, we've done our problem solution interviews, and there'll be a slide at the end sums it all up if you want to take pictures. Now we need to get a product out the door. So we changed this a little bit. You've normally heard it as minimum viable product, and that's a very broad term, very broad definition. A minimum viable product could actually just be a landing page online where you're collecting email addresses, right? It could be just about anything. So what we want to impress upon you is a minimum viable product, which means you're going to create value with this product that is monetizable. People have to give you money for what you're giving them, and you want to maximize that value that you're creating for them and for the exchange that you're getting, which is the money in. So let's talk about minimum viable product. Does anybody recognize this website?
First version.
What was it?
Original Amazon.
Original Amazon. It's okay to participate, guys.
1994.
We love participation.
This is Amazon's website in 1994.
1994, Amazon put this online. Would anybody? I mean, this is ugly, isn't it? And they started with just books. Was there a problem with buying books when they put this online? Not really, right? Books were pretty accessible. There was Barnes and Nobles and Million Books and tons of stores, right? So how were they able to make this work as a minimum viable product? I mean, I spent a ton of dough on Amazon the past couple weeks, so I know they're doing something right. So how were they able to, what problem were they really solving? What we got back there?
They took away the shipping problem by making it online books.
Okay, shipping online, back there.
You got it immediately. You didn't have to wait for the product to come.
There you go. So convenience.
They created the largest bookstore in the world.
Largest bookstore in the world. Okay, any other ideas?
You could get any book that you wanted that the bookstores didn't carry.
Right, so it's books that you couldn't normally find.
Accessibility, so you can be on any sort of computer device and still read that book.
Accessibility, right, the Kindles and all that. Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, so I would posit to you that there were two features they put on here that really made it a screaming success: reviews and recommendations. I would offer that the problem they were solving was not actually access to books, even though that helped, right? That was one of the features, but it was an online community. They basically took the home book club and took it worldwide, right? Because now you could put on reviews, and who doesn't like to put their opinions on the internet, right? That's what you can do now for books. You let everybody know what you think of this book. And recommendations. So you could tell everybody that this book changed my life, you need to read it. Isn't that was powerful? So they created this online community. So that was the problem they were really solving, and the minimum feature set they were able to get out there that created that value that then they could monetize.
This is really close to one of the partners we work with, Zion, okay? Zion, they provide an e-commerce solution for brick and mortar retailers. Now, how many e-commerce solutions are there out there? There's tons of them. But Dan, the founder of this, realized, what really sucks if you're a brick and mortar place is e-commerce. I have to have it because if I don't have it, people aren't going to see me online. I'm not going to have any online presence. It's something that I have to offer at least, otherwise I won't really be accepted in the community. But it takes me 50% of my time and represents less than 5% of my revenue. Okay? And so what Dan did is he was able to find a way to outsource this on commission, basically. So he says there's no cost to you up front. We take a cost based on what we sell, and we do your website, we do your advertising, we can do everything you have that's available to you. And so what it does is it takes these retailers and it puts them back in the position of your job is to create community in your specialized community, right? They started with the biking industry, with bike stores, basically. These guys want to be a part of all of the bikers in the area, and he was able to get them back to that rather than worrying about e-commerce anymore, right? And from then, he's been able to add other things that allow them to, he recently launching a point of sale system because he was having a problem with inventory. This, you say it's here, but it's really not. You don't have this item. Well, if we had a point of sale system, I'd be able to tell you how many you've sold and what your inventory is. So he continues to take things kind of off their shoulders, and that's the value that he provides there. It's not selling stuff online.
And another interesting point of that, the reason to start with bike shops is they historically can't get on Amazon. So they're constantly fighting against Amazon with their local store. So now there's an e-commerce solution that's outside the Amazon stream. So it was a great, unique proposition that he put forward.
And it builds the community as well because he has several different there are lots of bike stores that are all within one geographic area. So if you can't get it one place, you can get it the other place. Because people want that sense of community, but Amazon isn't able to really provide that.
Right. So, okay, we've done our market validation. We've done our problem solution interviews. Our minimum viable product is out there. How do we get to traction now? How do we decide what traction is? Okay, does anybody, I know we're in Utah County, but does anybody recognize this logo? Starbucks. Very good. Starbucks. What do you think their traction metric is? Any ideas? Oh, man, you went right to you're supposed to say like cups of coffee, right? Isn't that their traction metric? How many cups of coffee they sell? No, it's not. Oh, man, you guys, we got to get pumped up. Do we need to do jumping jacks? I was in the Army, so I can take you through calisthenics. We can do that. Okay, no? Okay, nervous chuckle. Starbucks. It's not actually cups of coffee sold. So when they started out, they were just a shop in Seattle, and they were looking to grow aggressively. And so they're trying to figure out how can we sell more cups of coffee. They can't just push, hey, here's 2, buy this. So they watched their customers, and they watched how their customers interacted with their product. And what they found out is people would come in the morning, they would buy their cup of coffee, and then they would kind of linger and hang out. And this is back when Starbucks was not the most friendly of places, right? They didn't have the nice decor. The bathroom had a key that you had to get. There was Wi-Fi, but you had to pay for it. So they figured out that there's a correlation between the time their customer spent in the store with the amount of money they spent. So they changed their whole mindset around and said, our traction metric is keeping that customer in the store. And so they changed the whole workspace, and they kind of created this co-working space before that was even a term, right? People would go to Starbucks, get their coffee, they could do a couple meetings there, and then go to their office. So they figured out a way to be the office in between the home and the office. And that was their traction metric, was keeping the customer in the store for a longer amount of time.
So traction leads to higher sales and higher volumes, but it is not higher sales and higher volumes. It looks a lot more like customer loyalty. It looks a lot more like adoption. And there's a solution, there's a product, and I use it a lot in my life. The way I like to refer to this, or kind of the concept I like, is basically if you released your product and gave it to a lot of people and allowed them to use it, and then you jerked it back and you removed it from them, how much pain would they feel? If it's a lot of pain, that tells you they were really doing something special with that. If they don't really care, then it's probably not something that they're going to care if they don't have. They're not going to really pay for it. Right? So it's its stickiness and it's its staying power. If you look at kind of the Silicon Valley unicorns and everything like that, their growth happens between years 4 and 6. They do not grow their revenue or their total number of users very much in years 1 through 4. And that's because they're dedicated, they're focused on making their product as sticky as possible for whatever it is they're doing. And if that's what your focus is, that's going to mean you're going to be creating something significant and something very marketable. And without that, if you don't have a good market, it doesn't matter how good your product or how good your team is, you're going to go out of business, basically.
Okay, so takeaways from today. We're almost going to wrap up because we do want to get to Craig Earnshaw and what he has to talk with us about. Traction. So traction is what you want to get to. Traction is what investors look for. Traction is what's going to drive your customer growth and your revenue growth. We think the best way to do that, according to the lean methodology, is you're validating your markets. You're doing your problem and solution interviews, which is where you don't have to spend a lot of money, but you can really come up with a good minimum viable product. Remember, create value that is monetizable. And then you find out what that traction metric is. And it could look like different things, but it's what drives your growth. And so we want your strategy, your strategery, to get you to traction. That's what we're looking for. Okay, Q&A?
Any questions or clarifications on anything we talked about?
I know we blew by it kind of fast,
Kind of a fire hose.
but
Yeah.
wow.
We do have one question from our live stream from Brian Martinez. He asked, when determining traction, there seems to be several directions to pursue. How does one identify a single direction among many?
That's your North Star metric, so.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it depends a lot on what the value proposition is and what you're actually building or putting into that. So if you really understand the problem and you really understand the value that you're providing to your customers, there's probably several different ways of measuring that, but it's which one actually matches the value a lot. Like a lot of times when we talk about revenue models, I say which revenue model, which way of collecting money is going to be in alignment with your value proposition. Because if you're providing something for somebody and then cutting your legs out from under you by charging them for something else, that's a real problem. So it's kind of a case-by-case basis, but it's going to match your value you're providing as much as possible.
And we usually refer to that as a North Star metric once you find what drives your revenue growth. And you can do tests, right? You can do A/B testing, so you can say, hey, let's look at this metric here and pull that lever and see if that changes our revenue or our growth. Or we can change this metric over here and see how that affects it. And we'll go back to the Starbucks example. For them, it wasn't just like, here's another cup of coffee, buy this. It was just keeping customers in the store, and that ended up being their North Star metric. So do some tests, look at different things that you can look at and see what the effects are.
My favorite story is there's this museum that wanted to know what people liked most or where they're spending most of their time or what they were doing in the museum so they can get better and better exhibits in there. And so they said, well, let's just ask people what they're here to see. So they started asking people what they're here to see, and they say, well, people said they're coming to exhibit A, but when we look at people, they're actually over here in B or C or D. They're somewhere else. So that's not a very good way of measuring it. So how about we ask them on their way out, what did they see today? Okay? And they noticed, well, they saw, exhibit C and D, but that doesn't tell us which one they spent more time in, really, right? Doesn't tell us which one they liked better. And they're scratching their head and trying to figure out how to measure this. And what they eventually ended up doing is measuring carpet wear, because that told them exactly what they wanted to. Here's where more people are, and more people are spending more time, it's going to wear out the carpets quicker. So even though you have no idea how many people saw that and how many people went in there and what your numbers are, you know very precisely what the traction is of each of your exhibits. Kind of weird and cool.
There you go. Think outside the box.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we all want to get on to Craig, don't we? So let's go ahead and cue that up. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.